This is part two of building sentences. And today we're talking about verbs. We talk about building sentences because when we learn a language, we start with words. We learn how to make words into phrases and phrases into sentences. And if we are writing, we learn how to turn sentences into paragraphs. A simple sentence in English has a subject and a verb, maybe an object. So here are three simple sentences. Clara loves scary movies. The cat purrs. My son wants ice cream. Each of these sentences has a subject, Clara, the cat, my son, and a verb, loves, purrs, wants. Two of the sentences have objects, scary movies and ice cream. The second sentence, the cat purrs, doesn't have an object because the verb purrs doesn't need one. Here's a sentence that we've talked about before. Luis needs to buy milk. It's a simple sentence. It's got a subject, Luis, a verb, needs to buy. All of that is the verb, and an object, milk. But I might need more information in this sentence. What kind of information can I add? When? Where? How? And what kind of milk? If I need skim milk, I don't want Luis to buy soy milk. And when? Do I need the milk right now? Or is it okay if he buys it after work? So here's that sentence with some more information. Luis really needs to buy soy milk at the store after work. So we've added information about how, an adverb, really. What kind of milk? We added an adjective, soy milk. Where? At the store. When? After work. When we're building a sentence, you can have adverbs, adjectives, information about when and where, but the verb is always the foundation. Here's an example. Run. Is that a sentence? Yes, it's a sentence. It's just one word. It's a verb, but it's a sentence. Or this one, do not enter. That's also just a verb. It's three words because it's a negative, but it's only a verb. Both of these sentences actually do have a subject, you. But it's understood rather than said. So you can actually have a sentence that's a verb and nothing else. That's why it is so important to learn how to use the correct verbs. And the verbs can take more time to learn. In English, a noun can be singular or plural. And to make the noun plural, usually we just add an S. There are a few nouns like child, where the plural is irregular, children. But English doesn't have gender. So you don't have to remember that a house is feminine or a car is masculine. Adjectives too. Adjectives don't have to agree with nouns like they do in other languages. So once you learn the adjective, that's it. It's a little boy, a little girl, and a little house. But the verbs can take time to learn because many of the most common ones are irregular. You have to learn the different forms of the verbs, and you also have to know when to use which tense. Thinking about when something happens helps us to understand which verb tense we have to use. Here's an example. Here's a simple sentence. I walk to work. Present simple tense, I walk, and a where, to work. If I change the where, so I say I walk in the park instead of I walk to work, it does not affect the verb. It's still simple present, I walk. If I put in information about how I walk slowly, it still does not change the tense of the verb. If I put in information about when, that can change the tense of the verb. I walk to work every day. When I say every day, I'm talking about a habit. So I want to use the simple present. I walk. If I change the when to yesterday, now I know I'm talking about the past. I walked to work yesterday. And if the when is next week, now I know I'm talking about the future. So it's I will walk to work. And if I say right now, something that's happening in this moment, that means I need the present progressive tense. I am walking to work right now. So another example, I call my mom every day. I'm talking about a habit, simple present. Last Sunday, I'm talking about the past. I called my mom last Sunday. Tomorrow, I'm talking about the future. I will call my mom tomorrow. And right now, talking about this moment, I need the progressive. I am calling my mom right now. The verb tense always tells us when something happens, even if we don't have a phrase like last week or right now in the sentence. If I say Brian bought a car, I know it happened in the past, but I don't know when in the past. The recent past or a long time ago. So this is when more information about when is useful. If Brian bought a car last week, it's not going to be the same car that Brian would have bought in 1955. And when I have that information in there in 1955, I know I have to have a past tense verb. I can't say Brian buys a car in 1955 or Brian will buy a car in 1955 or Brian is buying a car in 1955. In 1955 tells me it's in the past, so my verb has to be in the past. Brian bought a car in 1955. So to review, information about when and your verb tense always have to agree. And when you are building a sentence, you often need to add information about how or what kind or who or what or where or when, but the verb is always going to be the foundation.